It's great to have everyone here, especially the folks that are joining. Um, and one of the questions at Gatsby that we get a lot is about integrations with CRMs, other systems of record. How do you make it so that your data shows up all in one place? This is true on the Gatsby side of having your event data be visible all in one spot, but also tying back to your broader team and the relationships that they're managing. And I'm very excited to be able to kick off this series on CRM integrations with Affinity. Affinity's been a longtime partner of Gatsby, and we have significant shared DNA with the connecting piece being 8VC. Affinity was built and spun out and founded out of 8VC. Same with Gatsby. Caroline, who's joining, and we'll speak later to that, has kind of seen the journeys of both of our companies. I'm still friends with the founders of Affinity. My first day at 8VC when I worked on that side was a strategy session with Affinity that actually helped lay the seeds for what we built with Gatsby. And so for those familiar with Affinity, kind of a lot of the thinking, design thinking, and building that went into that, we kind of share at Gatsby, and vice versa. Those familiar with the Gatsby side, a lot of the best practices we have built out have been influenced as well by what Affinity did before us. Um, I won't go on too long, but yeah, definitely excited to have all of us together today. And Carly will speak first, showing off a little bit about Gatsby for those unfamiliar. Then Ranesh, we're lucky to have him join from the Affinity side, and he can speak towards all that's good and amazing about Affinity on the CRM side and how it plays nicely with Gatsby. And then we'll do a fireside chat with Caroline, talking about her experiences in sort of the pre times and then sort of the post times of these two tools. So yeah, with that, excited to hand it off to Carly to get us going.
Amazing. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon for some of you. Really appreciate you all taking the time to join. Definitely lots of familiar names on the call, but for those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Carly Goldstein. I lead the venture capital private equity vertical here at Gatsby. For those of you who are not familiar with Gatsby, we are a event and communication tool really designed specifically for both venture capital and private equity firms. On the event side of Gatsby, we have firms that are really doing anything from the super small scale, intimate happy hours and dinners, all the way up to the larger scale annual investor meetings, and really anything that falls in between that, whether it's in person, but can also be virtual as well via our Zoom integration. On the back end of Gatsby, Core Focus is really meant to be easy to use, very collaborative tool, not only internally, but also externally in the cases if you're ever co-hosting with other firms or even your portfolio companies. And then on the front end of Gatsby, it's very much designed for these well-branded, professional, and oftentimes private experiences. And yeah, with that, let's go ahead to the next slide. Awesome. So, how are firms using Gatsby and Affinity together? Oftentimes in Gatsby, we'll have folks, whether it's a chief of staff, head of platform, community, marketing, events folks that are using Gatsby for events and community. And oftentimes the rest of the firm is on Affinity and using Affinity as their source of truth. So, the purpose of the Gatsby and Affinity integration is so that you can remain in Gatsby for sort of these day-to-day activities around events and community. And Gatsby will automatically push back things such as when you add a guest to the guest list, their registration status, as well as check-in status back into Affinity. And that way, your partners and the rest of the folks that are using Affinity can just see that data easily on Affinity side, and they'll be able to easily answer questions like who are our most engaged founders, who are our flaky investors, and all that good stuff. And then on the Affinity to Gatsby side, we can easily pull in a list that you created on Affinity and have that be reflected on the Gatsby side. And so this will really help just automatically push back data so you don't have to keep importing and exporting things. And this will always just be up and running in the background and will ensure that no data gets lost. All right, let's move on. Awesome. So this is just a little illustration of what a profile can look like on Gatsby. You'll see on Zach's profile on the right, you're able to see what are the events that Zach's been invited to, what are the events that Zach's actually registered for, and then the ones that he's either attended or no-showed at as well. And then the image on the left is showing what his contact profile looks like on the Affinity side. Amazing. Okay, so what is the difference between Gatsby and some of the other tools that you're either using or have heard of? The really great thing about Gatsby is oftentimes if somebody is using Gatsby, you might not even know that they're using Gatsby because you really remain in full control over what the branding experience looks like. We don't throw Gatsby's logo on things or Gatsby's branding. You really are able to control the whole experience end to end with things like custom fonts, colors, logos. We also have a email integration. And so with a lot of the other event platforms that are on the market, one of the big issues with them is that a lot of times people aren't even getting the invitations because they're ending up in spam. With Gatsby, we have both a Gmail and Outlook integration, which means that the spam score in Gatsby is exactly what it would be if you were just sending it from your own email account. Another super cool feature is we allow you to actually send invitations, save the dates, follow-up reminders on behalf of a partner or another relationship owner. And so your LPs and founders are going to feel like the invitations are super one-off and personalized. And then the last thing I'll say, at least for now, is that we have really cool sub-event functionality. And so a lot of the firms that we work with will oftentimes host an annual investor meeting, but maybe the night before the annual investor meeting, there might be this dinner for the LPAC community only, and you don't want your founders to see it, and you just want to be able to easily control which guest types get invited to certain sessions or certain sub-events. And so this is probably Zach knows it's my favorite feature, super exciting, and we also offer things like real-time customer support. We save event history back to the profile. But with that, I'll go ahead and hand things off to Ranesh.
Awesome. Thanks, Carly. Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. Yeah, I'm Ranesh. I'm on the product marketing team here at Affinity. I'm going to walk you through how Affinity and Gatsby work together to help private capital firms, especially, turn event engagement to firm-wide action. So Carly walked through how Gatsby powers some of those most high signal moments in your firm's calendar, AGMs, roundtables, intimate LP dinners. Gatsby helps you manage those experiences and capture those meaningful points that happen face to face, the kind of interactions that, as the business that you're in, is about shaping and strengthening those long-term relationships. So what I'll show is how that Gatsby data becomes usable across your firm through Affinity. Many of you probably know this. Affinity is your system of record for relationship intelligence. It automatically captures digital actions like emails and meetings. It enriches those records. And with that Gatsby integration, you're also able to easily incorporate that live engagement from events. That means every RSVP check-in, the attendance log from Gatsby becomes parts of how you understand, evaluate, and prioritize your relationships across all your workflows. So not just deal management, but fundraising, sourcing, diligence, and platform efforts. So once Gatsby is connected to Affinity, the attendance data you're already capturing becomes immediately accessible across your Affinity workspace. You can use this data to create lists for each event, kind of like how Carly had mentioned, but you can also track participation and segment contacts based on their level of engagement. It also shows up directly, as Carly had shown earlier, on contact profiles. So whether someone's preparing for an LP check-in or researching a founder, they can see that past event participation automatically. No need to switch tools or ask around. That's the beauty of these two tools working together. And so this is especially valuable for firms where multiple teams are involved, whether that's IR, platform, deal, whatever complex hierarchy that you may have at your firm. Everyone's working from the same set of information. Because everyone is working from that same shared context, Gatsby captures the signal. Affinity helps ensure it flows into your decision-making process, your follow-ups, and long-term relationship management. So on the next slide, I want to speak about how they're a dynamic way to organize relationships by workflow. And you might build a list for an LP dinner, sorted by RSVP or check-in status. You might create a view to track which advisors have engaged across different topic-specific roundtables, so you have a better idea of who likes to attend what. What especially is powerful is that this context is always current. If Gatsby marks someone as attending a CEO summit, that automatically updates the relevant list in Affinity. For platform teams, this means better visibility into which experts or founders are showing up. For IR teams, it helps assess LP momentum over time. We know how important that is. And for deal teams, it adds another layer of signal, helping understand who's building real engagements across touchpoints. So in the next slide, I want to show you an example of a typical Affinity list. In this case, tracking external experts or speakers involved in diligence and platform initiatives. Teams use lists like this to manage re-engagement. So this one's not just about an event, but overall, these are our LPs that we care about. Sorry, our experts that we care about. So they want to make sure that they're avoiding duplication of efforts and give visibility to who's involved in which levels of support and when and how and why. When Gatsby gets connected into something like this kind of workflow only gets stronger. Attendance data from the events that flows into the same lists, helping you see which experts participated in a roundtable, met with the founder, spoke at a portfolio dinner. This kind of context turns a static list into an engagement history, which supports follow-ups, improves your coordination, helps you keep your network relationships clear and actionable. On the next slide, I'll show you an example of what an LP list can look like typically inside Affinity. An LP engagement list, as you likely know, is used by our IR teams to manage investor relationships across all your fundraising cycles. Teams use lists like this to track outreach, log interactions, organize notes, and ownerships. It gives teams a single place to monitor activity and plan their next steps. When Gatsby is integrated, you can take this even further by adding fields like RSVP status, check-ins, attendance history directly to this view. So what does that mean? It gives you real-time insights into which of your LPs they're like really engaged with your fund, which ones you might have to warm up a relationship on. And let's just say you're fundraising soon. It gives you exactly the people who are most engaged with your fund today as the people that you should be starting with when you're looking to re-up on your next fund. So those are lists. And the next final piece on the next slide, I'm just going to speak to the fact that we understand that not everything happens in the CRM. And so what we focus on is we know that people are sourcing in Chrome, prepping for meetings in Outlook or Gmail. They might be checking a board view on Affinity. Gatsby data is right there. Attendance history, event involvement, it's immediately visible, no digging required. This helps every team from deal to platform move faster and work with more precision because they're not just seeing who's in the CRM, they're seeing who's engaged. Thanks to the data Gatsby delivers. This is how we turn high signal event data from Gatsby into confident execution. Now that you've seen this and how this integration works inside Affinity and also in Pathfinder and Affinity for Outlook, I'll hand it to Caroline from ABC.
Perfect.
Caroline, I think it would be great if we just I ask you a couple questions and we'll just kind of kick it off that way. You were one of the first people I met on the VC side and have loved working with you over the years. Caroline, the brief intro, I guess you've seen it all on the venture side, for with ABC being there for quite some time and, have a multifaceted role on operations, some platform type capabilities as well, sit in on, pretty much all the partner meetings as well and just see everything. And, have done I guess, fantastic job of just being like a sort of like very loyal source of truth type person who also gets things done. So it's been amazing over the years. And maybe if we go to the next slide, I'd love for you to start maybe on what was it like in the early days on the VC side without tools like Gatsby and Affinity?
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to have you introduce me every time, everywhere I go. Thank you. So life at ABC and Formation 8 before that, before Gatsby and Affinity existed was, I like to joke, but it's not a joke, it was a really dark time. We really just had zero insight into our relationships, into events, what we were doing firm-wide. Each individual partner knew or investment team member knew their relationships, knew how that they were keeping up on them, knew what was important and what was slipping. or hopefully what was slipping, knew what events they were hosting, knew who they were seeing most often and most frequently, and nobody else did. Everything was happening in a vacuum. So there was a lot of duplication. There was a lot of, kind of looking silly to the external world, not being kind of synced up internally. And everything was very distributed. So not only did we not have insight into firm-wide events or relationships, but there was no way to even go to look to try to figure it out on your own if you wanted. So it was really tough. We were spinning our wheels in a lot of ways, wasting a ton of time, really losing relationships as a result, both on the investor, entrepreneur, co-investor, kind of everywhere. We were losing relationships, and so it was dark. But thankfully, first came Affinity, and then came Gatsby, and really transformed, how we work and how we manage our relationships, how we host our events, and how we streamline kind of all that process.
Yeah. I mean, you played a part for helping seed the ideas and the product visions for both of these companies. Maybe if we go to the next slide, how are things different nowadays?
Well, yeah, entirely different, I guess, is the short answer. And I've been really fortunate over the years to be able to work with both of the Affinity and the Gatsby teams, which has been kind of a lot of fun. But I would say that kind of first on the Affinity side, anybody who's ever kind of talked to me for more than 30 seconds has heard that Affinity is, integral in my life and in my job. And Gatsby had quickly become very similar and very integral in what I do and what we do as a firm. We are now able to see through Affinity, kind of this 360 view on all of our relationships, not just my relationships, not just the partners' relationships, but also the associates, the EAs, everybody on the team, which is, which really builds out a full relationship view for a venture firm and really for any firm. So we're able to use Affinity as an incredible source of truth with, as you've seen earlier, lists, tags, activity, relationship scores, et cetera. And Affinity remains our source of truth, but we were really, once we kind of built that out, we were really looking for something that could help us streamline our events process, both really small dinners and events, medium-sized cocktails. Something for our annual meeting, which is, hundreds, if not thousands of attendees, and something that could solve for all of those types of events while maintaining the really high level of, touch and quality that we had built for our events and for our attendees. And so, thankfully, Gatsby has, honestly just really solved all of that for us, from the beginning stages of building a guest list all the way through to checking people in at the event, maintaining dietary restrictions, seeing that, in kind of the postmortem who actually attended, does that match their RSVP, et cetera? Well, then also kind of full circle, pulling all of that data back into Affinity to, boost our relationship understanding and continue Affinity as our kind of general source of truth for relationships.
I have like too many follow-ups. So like I'm not sure exactly what to say.
You know where to find.
Okay. Like I'm interested. You can choose your own adventure between, like, if there was an event or something of the sort where the relationship data helped you sort of handle a guest or treat a guest in a good way, or alternative.
Yeah.
Question B, you can pick your favorite, is like on the deal side and like some of the ROI side, has the data that you're collecting from the Gatsby and Affinity angle, has that helped in sort of the investment committee meetings or help move deals along?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take the first question first. Being able to provide a really kind of bespoke and high level experience for each of our guest attendees, regardless of the size of the event or regardless of who they are, is certainly something very important to us, as it is for all venture firms and all PE firms. And Gatsby has allowed us to really understand the guest from an event perspective. So like I mentioned, dietary restrictions or, relationship insights as to like where to seat them or perhaps where not to seat them. whether or not they're bringing a plus one. And so, we've had that experience before where them had this awkward interaction where somebody walks up and they RSVP, but they have a guest with them, and you're like, oh, hi, who's your friend? And instead, Gatsby allows us to understand who that relationship is and who that person is joining them ahead of time, get information from Affinity on that relationship, and kind of very smoothly invite them in, even when it's kind of a surprise. And I want to say also, just talking about at the event, those awkward interactions we used to use, as I'm sure most people, just like paper to check people in. We'd have 5 people checking guests in, each have like the same like stapled stack of papers alphabetically, trying to like figure it out. And Gatsby has really allowed us to use iPads, which are so much sleeker, but to be able to search, and the check-in process is a fraction of the time it used to be.
Like, I remember like one of the partners would ask me like, had this person like shown up yet?
Yes.
And then I would like
Yes.
run over to like
Yes.
the EAs or whoever.
You'd have to go find all 10.
And have to look through like all 5. Yeah. And then like,
yeah.
and then like run back, and then he'd be like, okay, well, like, where's the person? And I'd be like, I don't know. I'd run back. He'd be like, "Where's the yellow hat or something?" I'd like searching for the yellow hat. I'd like go up to the second floor and like look down. Okay. So I thought also
Totally.
maybe one thing that'd be helpful, is I looked at the attendee list. A lot of people here, are a little bit more like earlier in their career, but like similar role to where you're at. How have you been able to like get the tools you need and sort of the processes in place to like do your job well? And we were joking around before this that like you've actually just been able to go and like convince people to build companies around your problems. So like from like either like getting a tool, just buying it off the shelf,
Yeah,
or
sorry, guys.
extreme. Like how have you gotten it done?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, like, first of all, I'm very fortunate to have a very supportive team around me at ABC who, sees the value in, streamlining and simplifying the platform or operations side of the firm. And even more fortunate that I've, been able to work with people like you, Zach, or Ray and Chippy, who are the original founders of Affinity, to kind of throw up their hand and say, like, I see the value in that. Let's do what we can, what's the term now, vibe code, like what can we put together? And, but I would say that, first of all, once I think Affinity honestly really unlocked a lot of this for us. There was a huge kind of pain point that everybody was feeling up and down the firm. Like, I don't know who everybody else is talking to. I don't know who anybody else knows. We're my past introduction, et cetera. And once the team at Affinity really started building out the product, I think it kind of opened our eyes to like, oh my gosh, what else is possible? What are our other pain points? Where are our other holes? And how can that work, really closely with Affinity? Because this is great, but what else? How can we add on? And so I spent honestly a lot of time. I'll just use the event space, but there are a lot of examples like this where you say like, okay, this has been solved, and I'm excited where this is going. Where are my other pain points in my workflows and my processes? And events was a big one, and I spent, Zach, this, but I spent time kind of looking at other platforms and trying, not necessarily trying to build something from the jump, but looking to see, what else is out there, demoing, talking, to other people in similar roles. What are you using? What do you like? What do you not like, et cetera? And events just happened to be a space that nothing was really great, at least for the VC space. It felt like jamming a square peg in a round hole. It's like using a CRM for like Salesforce for a sales team. It's not great for VC. It was very similar with events. And I guess, kind of got lucky that you were here and you were willing to jump in. But I think that the first step is, what else is out there? What are other people using? Connect with me. I'm around. I'm happy to chat anytime, or anybody else in a similar role, and ask them what they're using, what they've seen, what works, what doesn't work. But also don't settle for something that isn't great.
Yeah, would it be okay to
Gatsby and Affinity are both great.
would it be okay to share your contact info with the group?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can share it, and just for anybody listening, it's just Caroline@abc.com. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Cool. It's great. Let's see. I'm trying to think. And I want Carly, Ranesh, you guys are product experts at each of your companies. Ranesh, is there anything that you want to make sure we go over that we haven't touched on yet? And then Carly, same question to you afterwards.
I think right now, actually, I want to kind of step away from product a little bit and more so think about, or maybe even using signals from places like Affinity? How do you define what type of events you need to be investing in? Like, what does that look like at VC, Caroline? Or like, what are you hearing about how peers are using? There's all the traditional stuff that comes with sourcing or fundraising, et cetera. But what are those data points that you're looking for inside places like Affinity to inform your event strategy?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I could probably have one webinar simply on this, so I'll try to keep it. I'll keep it short. But our team captures a lot of information in Affinity, and if anybody that doesn't already know this, it's probably self-explanatory. But the more information you put into Affinity, the more you can get out of it. It's true of any platform. And we're really good at the big events. We're really good at cocktail parties or big dinners. 50 plus people, hundreds of people. Where I felt like we were lacking were the smaller events, the kind of vertical specific or stage specific or maybe first time or fourth time founder, kind of those niche groups. And Affinity kind of helped me and continues to do, but kind of slice and dice our network in different ways. So I can get super granular and say, show me all of the founders in the portfolio who are building in the healthcare or healthcare adjacent space, who are not a first-time founder and have raised at least a Series A or something. I can get super granular and say, like, let's pull those people together. But first, let me see, like, when's the last time we saw them? Have we been keeping up with them regularly? I can also kind of come at it the opposite way, which is where I see Zach and I see him in Affinity. I'm like, yeah, it looks all of a sudden that, we just really haven't been doing a great job hanging out with Zach and keeping up with him regularly. Okay. He's building in the B2B software space. He, is a first-time founder, but, was the chief of staff at a venture firm. Like, let me build a dinner around him and who else. And I can use Affinity, obviously, to kind of slice and dice the data and search and query for specific attributes to fill out those kind of small salon type dinners. That's one example, but that's one we've been working on recently.
Love that. Thanks, Kevin.
Or
Amazing. Carly, is there anything real quick you wanted to ask Caroline?
Amazing, Caroline. I'll keep it very, very short and sweet just for the sake of time. But favorite Gatsby feature?
Oh my goodness. There are a few. The ability to customize my events and the invites, that it's very bespoke. But I've said this like a few times on the call, but being able to ask questions ahead of an event makes us feel super prepared. Like I said, dietary restrictions. Are you bringing a guest? Are you, do you need parking information, et cetera? The ability to really like look super prepared and ahead of the game as a result of Gatsby.
Love that.
Cool. Okay, we said this would be 30 minutes. I know everyone's busy, so we'll wrap it up here. Caroline, this was amazing to chat and catch up. And
thanks to you all.
I'm sure a lot of people will reach out as well. That hopefully it's not a double-edged sword of getting too many people, but it'll be good. And I'd
don't be shy. I'm happy to chat anytime.
Yeah, I'd encourage it. I always have the best time and the best chats, both on professional and personal side. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining today, and looking forward to the next one. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks you guys.
Bye guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.